Hello. So tonight we're going to be talking about sensory details because you will have an item in your rubric about including sensory details in your narrative. And I want to look for sensory details in all of your future writing, poetry, narratives especially, because when you add sensory details to your writing, you as a reader feel like you are there. The root word sense is in the word sensory, so you can remember what it means. And it just means describing how things, using all five senses, describing how things taste, how they feel, what they sound like, what they smell like, what they look like. All five senses. I always have to think about grabbing all five and putting that in your writing so that you can picture what everything, all the experiences that you would have when you're in a setting. In your book, the sensory details may or may not already be in the original scene, but you're going to think about how your character would describe a place. What would they focus on? What would be important to them knowing their character? And you're going to put those in your scene so that your scene is very descriptive. So one of my favorite books for illustrating this topic, sensory details, is Hello, Harvest Moon, which is perfect for this week because we are getting a full moon this week and it's fall. So the scarecrow on the cover is this is a perfect time of year to read it. So while I'm reading it, I just want you to pay attention to the way, all the senses that Ralph Fletcher describes when describing the time of year. The crops have been gathered. The pumpkins have been picked. The silos are filled to bursting with 1,000,000 ears of corn. Tired farmers are fast asleep. But something is stirring at the edge of the world. Something is rising low in the trees. It comes up round, ripe and huge over autumn fields of corn and wheat. Hello, Harvest Moon. With silent slippers it climbs the night stairs, lifting free of the treetops to start working its magic, staining earth and sky with a ghostly glow. Harvest moonlight brushes your face, makes you stir and blink, wake and wonder. Who left that outside light on? What radiance is streaming into your room? It's so bright you can read your favorite book without even turning on the lamp. Outside, the yards and streets seem to be covered by a sparkling tablecloth. Birch trees shine as if they have been double dipped in moonlight. If you're lucky, you might spy a few large Luna moths performing their ballet in the crisp, cool air. A garden spider builds her web, hoping to catch an insect drawn to the great lamp in the sky. Milkweed pods have cracked open, spilling out spores like tiny moonlings floating up to their mother. If you notice, this book has a ton of figurative language, not just sensory details, but lots of figurative language, similes, metaphors, personification. If you played a nocturnal game of hide and seek and hid behind that huge pine tree, you would be almost invisible, cloaked in moon shadow. Now it's bedtime, but not for everyone. Overhead, a lone pilot is wide awake, looking down, muttering to herself. With all this moonshine, it's like flying in broad daylight. A night watchman gets out of his bed, pulling on his boots, filling his thermos. He always packs his flashlight, though he wonders if he'll need it going to work on a night like this. The harvest moon has its own work to do. It paints the wings of owls and nighthawks with a mixture of silver and shadow. It speaks to the moonflower, now, now, and sweet white blossoms unfold, though only night creatures will see them. It whispers to geese, away, away, and they become restless to start the long flight south. Baby turtles emerge from eggs tucked beneath the blanket of sand where their mother left them 2 months ago. They make a mad dash to the ocean. The harvest moon moves the earth's water, grabbing whole oceans with its arms. It pulls in the high tide that will lift all the boats, every rowboat and yacht, tied snug at the dock. It floods the clam flats with lonely lunar light, setting off an eruption of bubbles from clams and crabs tucked in mud. It floods us with dreams and memories of every full moon we have ever seen. It connects us to our distant ancestors who prayed to the harvest moon, yet feared it might be a god's one unblinking eye. Finally, it starts to ease lower, sprinkling silver coins like a careless millionaire over ponds, lakes, and seas, till all the money is spent. When you wake up, look to the western horizon, and you might catch the moon set, a sleepy head, winking, falling, slow motion, onto its pillow. Good night, Harvest Moon. I love that book, and we'll be using it in the future, too, to study figurative language. But let's go back and just pick out a few sensory details so you understand what they are. And they can be, sensory details can be described using figurative language, which is what Ralph Fletcher does often. But I'm going to go through this time and pick out some. It comes up round, ripe, and huge over autumn fields of corn and wheat. So that appeals to our sense of sight, describing what something looks like. With silent slippers, it climbs the night stairs. So that appeals, even though it's silence, it appeals to our sense of sound. So we can describe things as silent as well as a sound. We have moonlight brushing your face. Harvest moonlight brushes your face. That appeals to the sense of touch. That glow on her face. Birch trees shine as if they have been double dipped in moonlight. That would be describing sight. Cool, crisp air is touch. Being invisible, it's kind of like describing silence. Describing nothing to see is also a way to describe the sense of sight. The moonshine looking like it's flying in broad daylight describes sight. Silver in shadow describes the sense of sight. And whispering, geese whispering, away, away. Even though they don't actually say away, away, we can understand the the quiet noises they're making to each other, and that appeals to the sense of sound. The lonely lunar light appeals to our sight. And an unblinking eye is the sense of sight. And catching the moonset is a sense of sight. So he does appeal to a lot of our senses in this book, and I want you to try it out in your own narrative. Just think about the one thing that was left out of this book is the sense of taste. So that might be something, depending on what your scene is about, that you could include what something tastes like. So think about how you can put some sensory details in your narrative tonight. Even if you're close to being finished, you can go back and add some to describe some of your scenes and try to describe it as the character would describe it. What would be important to them? How would they see something? What would they point out or focus on? So think about that too. So good luck with your writing tonight and trying to add sensory details to your writing.